This is Derrick Broze with Activist Post and the Conscious Resistance. I'm here in San Antonio at the Texas Libertarian Party State Convention, and I'm talking with the mother of Ross Ulbricht, Lyn Ulbricht. How are you doing?
Good.
As good as it can be?
Yeah. It's always within that context.
We're talking about, of course, Ross and the Silk Road trial. For those who are unfamiliar, I'm going to put links to articles I've written in the past interviews with Lyn as well, to catch up on the trial and what happened with Ross. But there's a couple of points we wanted to make. For one, where is the appeal process? What's going on with Ross's case at the moment?
Yeah, the appeal was filed January 12th. You can read it on our website, freeross.org, plus the amicus briefs that were filed along with it and later, but they're all part of the appeal now, challenging both the warrants for the laptop investigation, which were unconstitutional, and a big question for the digital age because they were general warrants. They did not have any particularity about what they were actually searching for. This is unconstitutional. The National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers submitted an amicus brief to that effect, and they were joined by EFF, Electronic Frontier Foundation, because this is such an important point and question for the digital age. Will our right to privacy and against illegal searches and seizures hold up in the digital age? And then the other amicus brief challenged the barbaric sentence issued by the court of double life without parole, all nonviolent charges, first-time offender, giving no reason why this was necessary. And it was submitted by Drug Policy Alliance, joined by a former federal judge, Nancy Gertner, and LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, and Just Leadership USA, all challenging this sentence and saying that it needs to be tossed and a new sentence needs to be given with a different judge.
One of the things I wanted to mention that you touched on earlier in your talk today is, as far as this, being about drugs, you saw in the other sentences of the people who were involved, the other admins and just people related to the Silk Road trial with drug charges, receive significantly, vastly less time than Ross. Months. We're talking months, not lifetimes and years. Your thoughts on that, as far as the government angling like this is a drug war issue. They brought out the heroin addict. They brought out the family members saying, "Oh, my son died from buying drugs off the Silk Road."
Unsubstantiated.
Exactly, mm-hmm. and yet they turn around and hand off these just light sentences or time served for other individuals that were actually involved with selling drugs. Your thoughts on that?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what made me finally realize and accept that Ross is not in prison because of drugs. He's in prison because he was a political threat to the government. And they said, you're the first one to do this kind of thing. Have a marketplace out of our control on the Tor network, so it's anonymous, using cryptocurrency. And they could not tolerate it. And they said, we are going to make you an example because you're the first. And first of all, you're supposed to be sentenced and tried as an individual in this country, not as an example. And I guess they're saying that the person who's the fourth or fifth doesn't get that sentence. It's just Ross. But also, it's because of creating a platform. It's not the product. It's the platform. So we have an American citizen who they are basically saying is serving double life in prison for creating a website platform. And that it doesn't take much imagination to consider the implications of that. And it really came home to me when I realized and learned that the person who was convicted as being the top drug seller on Silk Road got 10 years, Jan Slomp. The person convicted of being the biggest heroin and cocaine dealer on Silk Road got 5 years, Stephen Sadler. One of the top admins at the height of Silk Road selling, Peter Nash, got time served of 17 months, and then Ross gets double life without parole for being the senior admin and creator. He's not being charged with actually selling drugs to anyone. I don't hope these guys do. I don't wish a longer sentence on these other people, to be clear. All I'm saying is that there's no proportionality, and that is required in sentencing laws. And it's so out of proportion that it's quite obvious that he's not being convicted and sentenced because of drugs.
And, in fact, the judge's own words said that, it was the ideology, the philosophy behind what both Ross had expressed interest in and some of the postings from DPR that she felt, I need to make an example. Her exact words are, I think, I need to make sure that nobody will dare take up your flag again and try this. And, we're here at the Libertarian Convention where, like you said earlier, it doesn't take very long to find somebody who expresses similar views, maybe even more extreme than some of the things that Ross said.
Two in the audience raised their hand. I feel that way.
Yeah, people say, well, I think the government's the enemy. And even extreme statements in this country are supposed to be protected speech. And what we saw in the case and what we were firsthand witness to is that he expressed, like you said, he created something new that challenged their paradigm of control and the philosophy they recognize, could be inspirational in a dangerous way to them. It's only a threat because the state exists to control and to stop people like Ross from trying to be entrepreneurs and experiment.
Let me say a little more about what she said at the sentencing, because it was chilling to me. She did cite the libertarian philosophy of Silk Road, and then she quoted DPR as saying the government is the enemy, and she said, I find this deeply troubling and extremely dangerous, this phrase. So she's specifically targeting anyone that says the government is the enemy. And, you can throw our founding fathers in that one. There's a lot of, we're supposed to be skeptical of our government. That's part of our tradition. She is supposed to uphold First Amendment rights, not bolster a draconian sentence with an attack on our free speech.
Absolutely. So we're dealing with the appeal right now, and that's obviously, it's a bureaucratic, long process that takes step by step. What is, what's the main thing that people can do? Obviously, this, like you said earlier, it takes like $13,000 just to file some paperwork that,
to provide them with the physical books.
Okay, so obviously there's the ridiculous costs that it takes to try to appeal. That obviously you guys are having trouble raising that money. The average person, I can't even imagine how somebody with no money could even possibly mount a defense. But obviously we need help. We need help, financial support, spreading the word is always good. But what other ways, and where can we find more information? Yeah,
well, we have a lot of information on freeross.org, and we're coming up with different ways for people to participate. We have a project based on Ross's art. He was inspired in a dream to come up with the idea, and we implemented it. It's a picture of him. He drew a picture of the trial from his point of view. It's almost all revealed now. We're going to do another one, I think. But it's a pretty unique, interesting picture, and basically you can buy a pixel for $1, and it reveals a little part of it, and it all has become revealed in parts, and it's been really fun. Another supporter is hiking the Appalachian Trail for 5 to 7 months to support American prisoners, including Ross, with tax, and it's a tax-deductible donation in that case. You sponsor her, so she's doing that. Just any ideas, that if we need volunteer help, we need, which goes to raising money. Unfortunately, in this country, in order to pursue justice, well, it's almost impossible unless you have millions of dollars, or a big grassroots effort, and that's what we're trying for. Because this isn't about Ross. It's not. It's like we're at a crossroads in history. Like I said earlier, things are happening right now. They're kind of fluid. We're in uncharted territory in the courts, and laws are going to be made and made solid, and precedent will be set that's going to impact the rest of us going into the 21st century. And there's things like the Fourth Amendment search and seizure laws and fair trials and digital evidence being considered valid when it's so easily manipulated and planted. And it's all written about in freeross.org under the case page, and it's quite important. And then there's the drug war. This is like the premier battle in the drug war. The Drug Policy Alliance is supporting us because of that. That they, it's very important. We can go into that whole thing about how our prisons are just choking with nonviolent drug offenders, and 2.5 million children have an incarcerated parent now in this country. The ripple effect of this drug war is hideous. Absolutely. And so there's that. So if you want to help win a battle in the drug war, help us. It's not just about, please help my son. Not that I would mind, but it's not a personal thing. It really is an important appeal. Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you for your time, Lyn.
Thank you so much.
I really appreciate as well that you have been able to step into this position, which is obviously difficult and not by choice, but recognize that as much as we want Ross out, that this is a bigger issue for all of us, and we want Ross to be free Ross for sure. but this is going to affect all of us. And and just it brings me to tears again just listening to you speak, because it's so overwhelming. Just understanding what's at stake here. That Ross's life is at stake, but also there's so many other people that are going to come down the line, and there's so many other names that we'll never know of people who are just stuck in that system and have no means to get out. And perfectly good people who can contribute to society. And it's difficult, but we thank you for what you're doing.
I go to the prison, and I know the families. We get to know each other, and I get to know some of the inmates too. We all kind of know each other because it's week after week, and it's heartbreaking. I see the children clinging to their fathers. They get their one measly hour a week. These are nonviolent people. Ross knows them personally. He goes, that guy, he's a nice guy, and he's nonviolent. Why can't he have an ankle bracelet on and go home? And in a way, I feel like, yes, I'm defending Ross, but in a way, I feel like I'm speaking for those families too, because they don't have the ability to really. They don't have a high-profile case. They don't have my education, etc., to be able to speak for themselves. And I feel like I have an obligation to them as well.